Leonardi, class of 1986, Aquinas Institute High School in Rochester, New York. My first year, freshman year, was the first year they accepted girls. And so my class was about 90% boys, 10% girls.
I'm going to be asking him questions about his high school experience and how it relates to the book we read. All right. How would you compare a high school in the 1980s to a high school now?
High schools now seem to be much more high touch. Like there's more ways for parents and students to be involved. Welcome events, greeting events, there's more feedback. You can talk to members of the administration and leaders of the school as a parent and as a student. When I went to school, your interaction was mainly through the activities you chose to do, like sports. So my high school was a football powerhouse. Sounds familiar. Played Moeller actually in the 60s, way before my time. But you lacked, it was great in many ways. There was a similar sort of camaraderie, like the boys took care of boys and then girls when they joined. But I think the idea that everybody's kind of part of an extended high school family, that definitely wasn't the case, you know? I'm trying to think of other ways to compare it. It was a lot of fun. There was like an esprit de corps, like an energy and fraternity about being there, and that's really similar to Moeller. Our big rival was the Jesuit school across town, so our version of St. X. It was called McQuaid Jesuit, so they were always our biggest rival in sports in particular. It had a fair number of working class families and people, much like Moeller, just people from all walks of life. Yeah, I would say those are good comparisons.
Yeah. What were sports activities like?
So Aquinas was very focused on football. My senior year, by happenstance, my buddies that were on the basketball team went all the way to the state finals, which was really fun. But part of the fun was it was so unpredictable and not expected. So basketball was not a big part of it. But everyone was encouraged to play sports. My sport was boxing. I was ultimately the heavyweight champ, which was pretty cool. Boxing was a really unique sport. It's a tournament that's kind of famous. Muhammad Ali has showed up for it in the past. Yeah, and that was one of the things that drew me to the school. Like I wanted to learn how to box, and they were the only school in the country that had that. But everyone was encouraged to go for sports and try them out, and it was a lot of fun.
Yep. Did you have any brothers at your school?
I have a brother who's 10 years younger than me that went to the school years after I graduated.
Was there a certain clique of boys who ran the school like there were in our book?
I don't know about ran the school, but definitely had an outsized influence on it. Yeah, I mean, it was insiders, outsiders, cool kids, maybe not so cool kids. There was a little of that. I haven't read this book, but they didn't really run it. But they kind of dominated the social life for sure.
Yeah. What was the dress code?
So you had to wear a tie. You're at all times in a dress shirt. You had to have your top button buttoned, which sometimes people try to get away with. Your hair could not touch your collar. So if you showed up at school with long hair, Mr. McGuire, who was the dean of discipline, would send you home until you got your hair cut. You had to wear dress pants. You didn't have to wear a jacket, but ties were, unless it was what they called grub day, which I think you guys have, or dress down day, where you could, which happened once in a while, like maybe every couple months, you were wearing a tie.
Yeah. How were students punished?
So you had JUGS, Justice Under God. That's what that stands for. So you would, a minor infraction, like, I don't know, burping in class, you would get 1 jug. So you'd have to stay after school for 45 minutes. In a way, it was punishing your parents so that you would be punished, meaning your parents would have to go pick you up after hours because there's no bus to get you home. And so your parents would be ticked off at you as a student for being punished because then they would have to alter their schedule to take you home. And that was the idea, like make it so that everybody was on board so you didn't mess up. A bigger infraction would be 3 jugs. Occasionally you could get more than that, but generally 3 was for something that was really offensive. And if you really blew it, you could be suspended from school or invited to leave.
Yeah. Would you have to like sell a certain thing to like fundraise money for the school?
No, maybe there was. I don't recall that. Aquinas, my high school, tried to keep things pretty economical. They didn't spend a lot of money. They kept the, capital campaign and all those things pretty simple. I don't recall having to do any of that.
Yeah. Would upperclassmen oftentimes like pick on the underclassmen?
I don't think so. I mean, there would always be upperclassmen, just by human nature, are at the top of the pecking order, so they certainly dictate more about the direction of the school and things that students would do and not do than underclassmen. But I suppose I can recall a couple times where an upperclassman was, rude to a younger classman or would make fun of him, but I don't recall that being like part of the culture.
Yeah. Lastly, did you enjoy your high school experience overall?
I did. I was a public school kid in elementary school, K through 8. I went to Florence Brasser Elementary, which was a great small public elementary school, and then kind of a rough middle school, Gates Chili Junior High. So Aquinas was a kind of a breath of fresh air. People knew each other, they cared about each other. It was, family environment like Moeller is. I enjoyed it. I moved away for college and then never went back home, so I've lost touch with a lot of my high school friends, but it was a good experience. I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.